welcome to another episode of the Backlot 605 box office bonus episode we do every Tuesday here. I am your host, Brian Mensing, and joining me as always is my cohort in crime, is Derrick Veurink. How you doing again tonight, Derrick?
Doing good, you?
Good. I can't complain. It's been a long day. It's time to talk some new fun stuff this week. What do we got to talk about this week?
Yeah. So this Friday brings us a movie that's been many years in the making, which is Sony's attempt to turn the Uncharted video game series into a viable movie franchise. So this brings up every time we have a video game movie come up, it brings up the topic of, will they finally do a decent video game movie for once? So with that in mind, this week we're going to look at the top 10 video game adaptations at the box office. This is a list provided by Box Office Mojo of actual video games that have been adapted into movies. This is not going to count any movies inspired by video games like your Jumanjis or your Free Guy or your Wreck-It Ralphs. These are movies that have a direct correspondence to a video game. Yes.
Perfect. All right. Good. That was actually going to be my question. What is the criteria? But you've pretty much laid it out, and it's a very, very straightforward, easy one this week.
Yep.
All right. So let's go into that. We shoot in for our number one, which actually, honestly, is no surprise, especially with the success that it had. Sonic the Hedgehog comes in at number one, $148.97 million. The one thing I will certainly say about Sonic the Hedgehog is it luckily got in when it did, because clearly, obviously, everything basically went to crap less than a month later. Because this was towards the tail end of February too, wasn't it?
This came out on Valentine's Day of 2020, so it basically had about 4 full weeks before COVID locked things down.
Yeah.
And again, that's also very impressive considering that, if you recall, this movie got delayed by a number of months because they released that first trailer with the creepy-looking version of Sonic the Hedgehog, and the internet freaked out, and Paramount said, okay, we're going to redesign it. We're going to delay it 3 months, but we're going to make it right. And I have to admit, it paid off because it became a very huge hit in the process. And at this moment, we're looking at the sequel coming down the pipe in April.
Yes. Yeah, and and I 100% I agree with you. I remember that very first trailer, and even as somebody who's not I wasn't a huge Sega/Sonic person in the first place, but I saw that and I was like, there's certain things that you just can't, quote unquote, update, change, whatever the case is, because especially with like something like Sonic has a very long history and of an IP and whatnot. That hedgehog was scary.
Yes.
And and Paramount could have just been like, well, this is just our version of it. I think they made the right choice.
Yeah.
Taking the time, spending the money, definitely gave them the return on it, because otherwise I think that if they had not done that, we wouldn't be talking about it like this, probably not even in the top 5.
No.
And also 2, we wouldn't be talking about a sequel coming out a couple months from now. So I think that was one of those times where Paramount is like, you know what, we're gonna listen to them.
The other thing I'll say is, I think it probably wasn't the main factor, but I definitely think there was a decent amount of curiosity of, oh, Jim Carrey's in this and he's hemming it up and acting funny. I got to go see this. And a lot of people liked him in this movie. So I think that helped it out quite a bit too.
I would have to agree with you in that respect too. It's having Jim Carrey play Dr. Robotnik, I definitely think that was going to help intrigue the parents to want to go with the kids.
Yes.
As opposed to just dumping off the kids. All right, you go to your movie, we'll be back. All right, coming in at number 2, the one that, this is also one of those ones, it was a little bit of until the movie actually came out, Pokemon Detective Pikachu coming in at $144.11 million. And I know a lot of this was because Ryan Reynolds is playing Pikachu, but Ryan Reynolds isn't doing any funny voices or anything like that. He's just being Ryan Reynolds.
Yeah,
So
it is Ryan Reynolds' voice coming out of CGI Pikachu,
yeah,
which is bizarre, but it has its moments. Although when you actually see the full movie and you realize, wait, that's supposed to be the voice of the kid's dad, who is also Ryan Reynolds, and he doesn't recognize his dad's voice coming out of Pikachu. Oh well, whatever. So weird stuff, but
you've ruined it for me. I'm just kidding. I'm totally kidding. I started it. I never finished it. I should go back and finish it and whatnot. So that's on me. The movie's a couple years old. But no, if that honestly, as somebody who I've just been spoiled kind of thing, I would agree. Justice Smith needs to be better about being able to understand and be able to hear his own father's voice. I'm just saying.
Yeah. I mean, there's some good stuff to this. I mean, the way they visually realize the world of Pokemon, I think, is probably the movie's best asset. Even though I'm not really, I grew up before the Pokemon fad really took off with the youngins, so I kind of missed that train. But I do understand why a lot of people were kind of awaiting a big budget movie like this with real talent behind it. So there's that. I also have to give it credit because this opened just a couple weeks after Avengers Endgame. So it's no small feat to stand up to that directly. So there is that.
Yeah. And I would say part of that would be is there overlap in demographic for those movies? Absolutely. But there's going to be a lot of kids that are going to go see Detective Pikachu that are not going to go see Endgame.
Yeah.
But and I would just like to make a note. I am older than you, and I had Pokemon for my Game Boy.
Okay.
So you're not too old.
At least I felt old. I mean, I was like in high school when the movie started coming out and like that. Yeah, I miss that. I admit, but maybe it's for the best. So
you're not wrong. All right. Coming in at number 3, another Sony property, Lara Croft Tomb Raider, coming in at $131.17 million. The Angelina Jolie led film, which honestly, myself personally, I didn't mind this Tomb Raider. I actually really liked it, but this was also the early 2000s were a different time when it came to the kind of what we got out of like our video game movies.
Yeah, I mean, I think again this helped that it was happening not very long after the Tomb Raider games were coming out. This is Angelina Jolie, really as she's emerging as a star. I mean, when this movie came out, she had only won her Oscar like the year before for Girl Interrupted. So this is kind of like her christening into the world of blockbusters, so to speak.
That's going to say this kind of into her like action, getting into more of the action stuff.
Yeah, I mean, she was in the Gone in 60 Seconds remake with Nick Cage the summer before, but this was very much like she is the top billed star.
True.
So, and then you have her real life dad John Boyd in here, and you've got a very young Daniel Craig in there as well for interesting talent. So, and it was a huge hit, and we're going to be talking about this particular franchise a little bit later here. So.
Because we always have to talk about Lara Croft. All right, coming in at number 4, we've got Angry Birds the movie, $107.51 million. This is one of those ones where I was kind of surprised, but also kind of not surprised, just because this was one of those ones where it's like it played well because the kids, all they saw was Angry Birds. Look, we're going to go see Angry Birds and whatnot. But at the same time, too, for as long as Angry Birds has been around, I'm surprised it took them that long to make that movie.
Yeah, definitely when it came out, my very first thought about it was, wow, this really should have come out like 3 or 4 or 5 years ago to really capitalize on Angry Birds mania. But, it still looked cute and colorful. And they had a bunch of like comedic voices in it, like Sudeikis and Bill Hader and Danny McBride, to kind of fill out the ranks, because at least that got me semi-curious.
Yep.
Although yet I still wasn't really looking forward to it. Um, I would actually argue that the sequel is a better movie, but
Okay.
you know, it's not like you should rush out to see that one either. So
You mean I should be over here sad that I haven't seen the Angry Bird movies?
you don't need to. Don't feel sad.
Don't feel sad. All right, I won't feel sad. All right, coming in at number 5. This one I actually do enjoy. Is it a great movie? No, but considering the topic of the movie that or the video game they were making is Rampage number 5, $101.03 million. The Dwayne Johnson led movie. Is it great? No. Is it freaking fun? And as somebody who is a huge fan of this game growing up, I was stupid excited to see George and Ralphie and Lizzie all coming to life on the big screen.
I mean, you get those giant creatures in the movie. You definitely get that.
Mhm.
You know, I was a little bit more phased about this, not necessarily because of the creatures, but because this is kind of like this. I distinctly remember this as the year that I was starting to get kind of sick of The Rock and the kind of movies he
Good.
was doing.
Was
Maybe,
this the same year as Skyscraper too?
yep, Skyscraper was just a few months later.
Yep.
So So that's my signpost. But again, it has some good stuff to it. Jeffrey Dean Morgan's in it, and I think he's plays rascally very nice in this movie. Coming off the boost that his career got as Negan, so
Mhm.
there's that too.
Yeah. And Marlene Ackerman, I enjoyed her in this as well. But I will also say one of the things that I really loved, which um unless the other ones did it and I just don't know it and whatnot, this is the first one we've been talking about where to have a little nod to the original video game. As I remember in the movie, there's actually a Rampage video game cabinet
Yep,
in the office, which
yep.
immediately one of those things where it's like, oh, that is awesome. I appreciate you for that.
Yeah, I mean, again, I think because of I mean, it would be easy to think because of the distance between when that game came out in the 80s and when this movie came out in 2018, there were probably a good chunk of the audience that had to be reminded, oh, by the way, this is based on a video game, and we're going to put that hit in you to figure that out on your own.
You know what? You are probably right. There's going to be that weird little bit like I don't understand why. That's why. All right, we go into our number 6. Prince of Persia: Sands of Time, $90.76 million, May of 2010. One movie that I have never seen, and I still don't know if I want to or not. Whatever. This is the reason why is it always felt weird that this was led by Jake Gyllenhaal.
Yeah, I admit I never got around to this movie back in the day either because there I don't know if I want to say there was outrage at the Gyllenhaal casting, but certainly a lot of, yeah, is he a good fit for this or not?
Hmm.
But it made some money, not a lot of money for how much it probably cost, but they tried, I guess. And again, maybe this is another one of those that was a little bit too late because I think the Prince of Persia games date back to like the early '90s or stuff like that. So it's not necessarily a fresh IP to turn into a video game adapted movie either. But oh well.
Yeah, and that's just it. It was one of those ones where it was the oddball. Um, for me anyway, like I understand there's a huge fan base for the Prince of Persia games and whatnot, but like I don't think there was a broad enough base for that
Yeah.
to give people a reason to want to try to go see that movie, I guess. um what just possibly came to my mind just for the sake of just curiosity, like if you were to make that movie today, the first person I thought of, and like, okay, now is this how I was thinking about it? So I wanted to bring up to make sure I wasn't just like not doing it correctly here. Is Riz Ahmed
Okay.
um, to take on the Prince of Persia? I think would be an interesting fit. I think he could pull that off.
Yeah. Yeah. I'd be perfectly fine with that.
Yeah.
So
All right. Our number 7, Pokemon, the first movie. $85.74 million. Oh, this was the animated one.
Yep. This is the first animated movie. Yep.
I immediately was like, this was a movie? That's right.
Yes.
And it was 1999. I was as somebody who, yes, I had with the original Pokemon on Game Boy way back in the day. In 99, I was going to go see movies like The Matrix and American Pie. I wasn't going to go see animated Pokemon.
Yeah. I mean, I was in high school at this point too, and I thought like, this is too young for me. I've grown past this too.
Mhm.
But Pokemon Fever was very hot back then,
Oh,
and the
definitely.
TV series obviously was kicking off. That's what gave them the momentum to pull this. And there was a period where they were putting out a Pokemon animated movie in theaters like every year. So they just kept knocking them out, even though they never reached the box office heights of this movie. So
Right.
there's that. Locally, I should also mention Pokemon, the first movie, also has an important signpost in Sioux Falls movie history because this is the movie that opened the Century Stadium 14 back in November of 99. This
This
was,
was our first movie at the Century.
yes, this week, that
Oh,
weekend it opened. They put it on 3 screens because it was a big deal. So,
how we have progressed.
yes.
All right. Coming in at number 8, the original OG, Mortal Kombat, $70.45 million in 95. I will have said I did go see this one in the theater, but I was a big Mortal Kombat fan at the time. So I'm glad to see this one on the list. I will point out, though, what I find fascinating about this is this clearly shows about like the dual release thing and whatnot, is that the 2021 version is nowhere to be found, and the original one from 95 is still holding strong for that franchise.
Oh yeah, because I'm actually going to pull up the list here secretly in my lap, but the 2021 version ended up topping out at about, what was it? It topped out at $42 million last year. So yeah, definitely got hurt by the dual release.
Mhm.
But yeah, this came out like mid August of 95, kind of like after all the summer blockbusters had made their way out of or through theaters. So it was kind of able to seize that dead zone to an extent. Of
Yep.
course, Mortal Kombat was also coming out fairly closely on the heels of the original video games. So that helped too. And of course, you had the theme song, which is an infectious as get out. And certainly that Mortal Kombat theme song, along with the soundtrack as a whole, got people's butts into the theater. So
I was gonna say that's a soundtrack that I still own to this day. I know people that, like, for example, I could be like, I know people that I on a daily basis, like, I have music CDs that are older than you are. All right, and then coming in at number 9, the follow-up to the original Lara Croft Tomb Raider: The Cradle of Life, coming at $65.66 million in July of 2003. The one where they're like, "Hey, we did it once, let's try to do it again." It doesn't quite hit the same mark, but again, I mean, this was just another one of those vehicles where Angelina Jolie's like, "I wanna be an action person," and so, you had success with the first one. Why not try to do it again?
Yep, and it basically made exactly half as much as the first one. Notable because it had a up and coming Gerard Butler as her co-lead. The movie that effectively killed Jan de Bont's career as a director after making movies like Speed and Twister. Sadly, we missed out on some good stuff because of this. But it still did enough where people were like, down the road, maybe in 15 years, we'll try it again with Alicia Vikander. And that did okay. Not as good as even the sequel. So, we'll see. Maybe it'll
I
become a
mean,
streaming series next, probably.
I
Who
was
knows?
like, yeah, considering the fact that, we haven't even brought up her version of Tomb Raider in this top 10. So, yeah, I guess that I'd say that's saying something a little bit here.
Yeah.
All right. And then to round out our top 10, we've got Resident Evil Afterlife coming in at $60.13 million. I actually had to pull up the list because I couldn't remember like where
Which one?
which
Yep.
ones go where and whatnot. And the
Yep.
part I find kind of fascinating about this is the fact that yes, this is the fourth one out of the six.
Yep.
So the fourth one is the one that makes the most money out of all of these movies.
But I can explain it
Ooh,
because the reason this
okay.
is the top one is because this is the first one that they did in 3D. So it had the
Aha. So
boost.
it had the buffer in there.
Yes. Yes. That's how
Okay.
they get you.
And well, and I remember that the first one was, I mean, it was a success in the point of, I want to say is, relatively low budget, made a lot of good money kind of thing overall.
Yep.
Um, but yeah, I mean,
It Sony has had these franchises over the years that are just kind of these durable genre programmers. Resident Evil was one of them, and Underworld was another of them. And
mhm,
they kept cranking out movies in both those franchises to perk up their schedules. And even like we're only just a few months removed from when they decided, okay, if Paul W.S. Anderson and Mia Jovovich are done with this, well, we're just going to bring up a new cast and a new crew and we're going to reboot it. And that's how we got Welcome to Raccoon City. So
I
they're
had
going to
some,
keep trying it.
yeah, and I had so many hopes for that movie, and they need to have fans like in those rooms when they're brainstorming to be like, that's not how you do it. You don't try to mash up the first and second games to try to make it. Oh my goodness. There's so much potential in that cast in the new one too.
Yes.
Um, oh, I was so disappointed. All right.
Uh,
So uh that has been our top five. You look like you've got something on your lip
yeah.
there,
Yeah. I,
Derek.
I was going to throw in a few additional things because here are
Okay.
some video game franchises that just missed this list. Number 11 was the Alicia Vikander Tomb Raider. But
Okay.
in number 12 was Assassin's Creed, the Michael Fassbender movie from about 5 years ago. So there's
Yes.
that. Then there were two other Resident Evil movies. Number 15 was the Warcraft movie from Duncan Jones in 2016. Number 16 was the very first Silent Hill movie from 2006. And then number 18 was Need for Speed with Aaron Paul and Michael Keaton. So a number
I
of movies that didn't make the cut, but again, they've kept trying to make movies out of all sorts of video games. So
oh
there
yeah.
you go.
The part I think is kind of funny is I heard they were doing Need for Speed, and I mean, when you basically boil down like the basis of what they originally were, there's nothing to them. Like there's nothing you can make a movie off of. But
No,
is it a great movie? No. I enjoyed the living crap out of it, but maybe it's because I like Aaron Paul because this is like his first vehicle right off of Breaking Bad.
yep,
But people should give Need for Speed a little bit more love. I'm just saying.
yeah. The other thing I'll mention is so we talked a little bit about Sonic the Hedgehog 2, which I'm sure will find its spot in this top 10 when that does come out in April.
Hmm.
But we have another big video game movie coming out later this year that will probably end up topping this list completely. And that is the animated Super Mario Brothers movie coming this Christmas, which they're going
Yeah,
to try that again.
I well, nobody could ever beat the Bob Hoskins, John Leguizamo, Dennis Hopper, Mario Brothers. Never. Is it a great movie? No, but it holds a special place in my heart. But you know what? You are probably right though. I think even with the whole issues that people are giving about the whole voice casting and whatnot, I think it's actually going to play out pretty well. So I think you have a very solid point there for Mario Brothers.
Yeah,
But I do think that Sonic is going to give it a hell of a run for its money this year.
I think so. I mean, Mario's probably going to win overall because again, it's coming out at Christmas. It's going to be the de facto animated movie for families to go to, so it's just going to make a crap ton of bank there. But we're going to have some big video game contenders this year, so stay tuned. Maybe I'll have
All
to come
right.
back to this list in the future. We'll see.
Oh, okay. Not a bad idea. All right. So, do you have any hints of what we might be talking about next week, or are you still trying to see what
I
we might do?
I have a tentative topic. Obviously, we talked about that. The other movie coming out this week is the return of Channing Tatum with Dog. So I figured
Ooh,
this might be a good time to look at his filmography and see what's dominated his roster of movies in the past 10, 15 years leading up to his 2022 comeback. So I think that's what we'll do.
I think that's a very great and fantastic idea because I think there's going to be some interesting things on there and some expected stuff. So,
Yes, yes. So there you
all
go.
right. All right. Well, that has been your bonus episode for this week. Be sure to check us out every Monday and every Tuesday for the bonus episode. And we will see you here next week.
See ya.